Madam Deputy Speaker, this is a new government getting on with delivering for defence. We've stepped up support for Ukraine, we've signed the landmark Trinity House Agreement with Germany, we've given forces personnel the largest pay rise for over 20 years, we've confirmed defence as a priority sector as part of the government's industrial strategy, and this week we secured the second reading of the Armed Forces Commissioner Bill to improve service life. Madam Deputy Speaker, Labour is the party of defence, and we will make Britain better defended. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, we know these are serious times. War in Europe, conflict in the Middle East, increasing global threats. And technology is rapidly changing the nature of warfare, as we see right now in Ukraine. Before the election, we knew there were serious problems with defence. One previous Conservative Defence Secretary told this House that our armed forces have been hollowed out and underfunded over the last 14 years. However, as I have told the House since taking office, the problems were even worse than we thought. It was a dire inheritance, the state of the finances and the state of the forces, often hidden to Parliament, billion-pound black holes in defence plans, taxpayers' funds being wasted, military morale down to record lows. And that's why we're taking swift action now to inject investment, get a grip of MOD budgets and kickstart much-needed reforms to start fixing the foundations for the UK defence. And I want to update the House on what we're doing today. First, on investment. In July, the Chancellor exposed the 22 billion black hole at the heart of the government plans. Hundreds of unfunded pressures this year and into the future too. The first duty of the government is to keep this country safe, and that's why the Chancellor has announced in the budget that defence will receive a boost next year of nearly £3 billion to start to fix the foundations for our forces. And the Chancellor also told this House we will set a clear path to 2.5% of GDP on defence, which will be fully funded, unlike the Conservatives' unfunded pre-election gimmick, which was never built into government finances. But this is not just about how much you spend on defence, it's how you spend that counts, which is why we're conducting a strategic defence review at pace to assess the threats we face and the capabilities that we will need in the future. And it's also why I've introduced tight financial controls on the department, including a £300 million reduction in planned consultancy spending. Madam Deputy Speaker, we're getting a grip of MOD budgets and investing in people and in future technologies. Second, on kit and capabilities. For too long, our soldiers, sailors, aviators have been stuck with old, outdated equipment because ministers wouldn't make the difficult decommissioning decisions. As technology advances at pace, we must move faster towards the future. So today, with full backing from our service chiefs, I can confirm that 6 outdated military capabilities will be taken out of service. These decisions are set to save the MOD £150 million over the next 2 years and up to £500 million over 5 years. Savings that will be retained in full in defence. And alongside this statement, Madam Deputy Speaker, I've laid a WMS to outline the detail of my decommissioning decisions. These include HMS Northumberland, a frigate with structural damage that makes her simply uneconomical to repair. 46 Watchkeeper Mark Is, a 14-year-old Army drone which technology has overtaken. HMS Albion and HMS Bulwark, landing ships both effectively retired by previous ministers but superficially kept on the books at a cost of £9 million a year. 14 Chinooks, some over 35 years old, accelerated out of service. 2 Wave-class tankers, neither of which has been to sea for years. And 17 Puma helicopters, some with over 50 years flying, will not be extended. And I recognise that these will mean a lot to many who've sailed and flown in them during their deployments around the world. They have provided a valuable capability over the years, but their work is done. We must look now to the future. And all current personnel will be redeployed or retrained. No one will be made redundant. As the First Sea Lord says about these retirements, and I quote, "The threat is changing, so we must have the self-confidence to make the changes required." And of course, Madam Deputy Speaker, be in no doubt the future for our Royal Marines and their elite force will be reinforced in the SDR. These are common sense decisions which previous governments failed to take. Decisions that will secure better value for money for the taxpayer and better outcomes for the military. Decisions which are all backed by the chiefs and taken in consultation with SDR reviewers. Allies have been informed and we have constant dialogue with NATO. These will not be the last difficult decisions I will have to make to fix the defence inheritance that we were left with. But they will help it get a grip of finances now, and they will give greater scope to renew our forces for the future as we look towards the Strategic Defence Review and to 2.5%. And I want to thank the Chiefs for their determination to work together with me on this. Third, Madam Deputy Speaker, on reform. I have to say defence reform has been of little interest to recent Defence Secretaries. It doesn't make headlines, it doesn't advance careers, but how defence works must change to deal with the increasing and diversifying threats. So recently, I launched the biggest reform programme in defence for 50 years, to create a stronger UK Defence Centre, to secure better value for money, better outcomes for our armed forces, and be better able to implement the Strategic Defence Review. Central to a reformed defence is our new fully fledged National Armaments Director, which recruitment is underway now. The Chief of Defence Staff will oversee a new military strategic headquarters operating from the end of 2024, where he will formally command the individual service chiefs for the first time and will be central to prioritising investment spending between the services. And the Permanent Secretary will lead a leaner department with more policy muscle and influence. These reforms will ensure faster delivery, better integration and clearer accountability across defence to make our forces fit to fight for the future. And finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, our people. This government's putting defence people at the heart of our defence plans. We inherited a conservative crisis in military recruitment and retention. Targets missed every year for 14 years, morale at record lows. We can't fix these deep-set problems overnight, but as ministers, we're on a mission to lift military morale. We've awarded the forces the largest pay increase for over 20 years, and I can announce today that I'm introducing from April a new £30,000 retention payment for a cohort of tri-service aircraft engineers who sign up for additional 3 years of service. This will affect and be open to around 5,000